they're going to look at that and say, well, we don't know who this guy is. Is he the guy at the top of the trend, or is he the guy at the bottom of the trend? Good morning, Ethan.
Good morning, Dr. Wright. Wonderful.
How are
morning.
you? Yeah, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Got done with my workout and I'm here now.
Good. Where are you calling us from?
I'm from Illinois, the north suburbs, but I go to school in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Very good. So how far is that from Chicago area?
So I live about 45 minutes away from Chicago on a good drive.
Okay.
But say about 3 hours from Chicago is where my school is, 3 hours north, and straight north.
Okay. Cool. Well, welcome to Am I Ready? We're going to take a look at all your stuff today and look at Mapped and see what it tells us, and have you explain some of your just a variety of things, and then I'll give you an indication of where I think things stand and what I think moving forward needs to look like. And does that sound okay to you?
That's what I signed up for.
All right, good. So we'll take a look at Mapped. We have your Mapped account up here now, and the first thing we're going to look at is on the dashboard is your GPA. And so what we see here is a graph, a GPA graph using the MCAT calculation of 3.32 cumulative GPA and a science GPA of 3.27. And what I see here on this graph is quite a bit of ups and downs. We've got, start out at looks like a 3.4-ish, and then goes down a little bit, and then back up a little bit, and then down and then up. It looks like every spring there's kind of a dip. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So kind of to give an overall, I was not planning on going to med school coming out of high school, even coming out of my freshman year. I was actually planning on playing football. Like, that was my big thing. I was football. I love sports. My senior year, I dislocated my shoulder, and it kind of stopped everything. Sadly, most injuries are kind of, torn ACLs, you can get up and have a great college career. And sadly, shoulders haven't made it there yet. Once you dislocate it, it's bound to dislocate again, and probably even worse. So a lot of the colleges wouldn't touch me anymore. So I kind of didn't know what to do with my life. I grew up on football, and it was a real life tester for me. So that whole freshman year, fall of 2018 to spring of 2019, I was just kind of figuring out who I was, real journey. And I come from a blue collar family. We work a lot. I was told that in order to stay in my house after I turned 18, I had to get a job, a full-time job, real job. So I did. I worked in a warehouse for about a year and a half. And it was not the worst experience, because every experience has learning to it, but it definitely was not fun. And that's why you can see the dip in the spring, is because I was coming towards the end of my time there and was just not happy with my life. I was really fighting everything. It was actually over the summer that I kind of like the summer / beginning of freshman year that I kind of figured out maybe I kind of want to do medicine. I was taking my prereqs at my local community college, and luckily I had enough AP classes that I only had to do about 1 year, 1.5 at my community college. And I decided to transfer to UW Oshkosh because at the time I was really interested in sports medicine. Kinesiology is my undergraduate degree. So I decided to transfer for that fall, and I was still taking a couple of classes online. And to get direct admit into the kinesiology program, I had to do some shadowing. And so I did various shadowing of personal trainers and everything. And it came down to the physical therapist told me, I don't think you're right for this, Ethan. You know a little bit too much, and I think your background might be medicine. Here's this PA to go see, orthopedic sports medicine PA. I think you might find that interesting. So that was like kind of my first little taste of, graduate school, you have the potential. And that's kind of really where that intrigued. And you can see into the fall of 2019, my GPA starts to go up even more. I'm still adjusting from going to a community college to a university that just kind of, it's a toss up. It was kind of hard getting used to the lecture pit. That's something we didn't have at community college that I was kind of stunned by the first half of my semester. I didn't know how to walk up to the professor, talk to him in front of 120 kids, so that was a little difficult for me until one day where my grade wasn't where I wanted and I got fed up. So I just kind of walked all the way down there in front of everyone and just kind of yelled out. I just got sick of it, being afraid. So I went after it. But in that time, I also shadowed a orthopedic PA, like recommended, over Thanksgiving break. And it was a sports medicine clinic. They did a lot of joints. So rotator cuffs, knees, ACLs, all that. They didn't necessarily just do athletes. I don't know if you're familiar with Illinois Bone and Joint, but that is the huge group that this PA practiced under. And I shadowed her, and I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like 3 or 4 appointments in, and I was like, this doesn't seem like it's something I want to do. All you do is talk to the patient for 2 or 3 seconds, and then you give them a corticosteroid injection, and maybe pull some fluid out. That's it. We did that for a week, and I was like, it was a bad taste in my mouth. I know not all PAs do that, and there's a lot more dynamic to it, but definitely not a good first impression for me. But really what was the doctor. He was really awesome. So later on that year, this is January of 2020, I got into his OR. I was able to schmooze my way in there and did 10 hours and watched 10 hours of surgery. And that was the coolest thing ever. He did 9 surgeries, knees, shoulders, all of it, mostly arthroscopic. And I was kind of hooked after that. I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to do something like that.
Yeah, sure.
But sadly, COVID hit a month after. I was supposed to go back during spring break, and COVID hit, and that's my spring dip right there.
So the spring dip is just by virtue of COVID hitting and everything going online, and that didn't mix well for you, or what?
Yeah, really didn't. We started off in person. I actually, before we went offline, because I remember I was taking calculus, organic chemistry 1, and what was my other? Oh, biomechanics, which is a kinesiology class, but it was another harder class. I had a 3.8 right before we left, and then, as you can see, it dipped down all the way to a 3.0.
Right. Right.
Sorry, it went dark in here.
Okay.
But yeah, it really took a toll. I'm not the best online learner, especially when I was stuck at home.
Right.
That's what really hurt me. Otherwise, this dip in the spring would have probably been more of an upward trend, in my honest opinion. But things happen, right. And so you got to roll with the punches. In summer, I took one summer class. I took an English class just due to they're trying to change it from an upper div to a lower div class. So I took it early, did really well in it.
Right.
And then fall hit, and now we're fully online. We didn't go back to in-person classes. I'm still learning how to do that, and it's a better GPA, but not where I wanted it to be.
Right. So what is the struggle for you with the online online courses. What have you discovered yet? Why you struggle with that?
Yeah, and that's what I really addressed this semester. I like to talk to my professors, really just sitting in class and seeing the body language, the way they express it. It really helps me understand what's important to them and what's not. Where I was getting overloaded online because I couldn't figure out what they wanted me to take notes and what was just extra. Like, they go on tangents and stuff like that. Professors, I love them, but can be excessive sometimes. So I got overwhelmed very easily online with the amount of information I was getting, especially that fall semester was very rough. But this year, since I'm COVID vaccinated, I was able to get some of the few in-person learning spots in some of my classes, and so that allowed me to have an easier time learning in those classes and focus a little bit harder on my online classes to help even out those struggles.
Right. Sure.
Along with, I have a whiteboard now. I write everything on the whiteboard, then into my notes to make sure that I got it right. I double watch every video. I do what I can.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to Mapped and look at the dashboard once again. And what I'm interested in seeing, if we can go up to where it says more detail, just to the right of AMCAS GPA, and click on that, and then that'll give us some more details, and kind of keep scrolling down. Yeah, keep going down one more. Okay. So that is not super helpful, but that, I get the picture of what we're talking about here in terms of your your GPAs and stuff. So that's good. Okay, so let's go over to the dashboard, back to the dashboard, and go down to MCAT. That's at the very bottom. And looks like we have a few practice scores here. One from August 2020, January 2021. I guess two of them in January. Am I reading that correctly?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's your target date for taking the MCAT?
Right now it's May 28th, but I'm about to take another practice test this weekend, and that's really going to determine if I push it back to the middle of summer, end of June, beginning of July. It's $300. That's a lot to me personally. So I'm not going to waste it if I'm not anywhere near my goal, which my goal right now is 510 or above, and 510 is kind of settling. I think I can do really good on the MCAT. I have a good base.
Okay. Now, if you'll go back to over to the left in the navigation bar under MCAT, just click on MCAT. Yeah. Oh, on the left. Yeah, right there. Okay. So what we're seeing is we start off with a diagnostic, looks like at 494, went up on the January 11th score to a 500, which is a good jump. That's encouraging. And then a couple of weeks later, you took another full-length practice test and at a 503. So this looks promising, I think. So is the reason that you haven't taken any practice tests since January just because of the coursework you're doing this semester?
Coursework, and I have to work.
Right.
I'm actively paying off my school. So I work every weekend at a hospital, which is good, like for me and my medical application, and I love working at the hospital.
Right.
So I work 2 shifts a week at the hospital along with my desk job on campus.
Okay.
So all in all, I work about 30 hours a week.
Okay. So let's look at those activities. If you could go over to the left navigation bar again and click on activities, and let's just talk about kind of things that you've done. So the very first entry that you have there is shadowing or clinical observation, almost 86 hours, and that's been this spring. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I was cold calling a lot because that was honestly my biggest what's the word I'm looking for? My biggest gap in my application is I just did that one surgery, and I shadowed the PA. So I wanted to make sure it was solidified to the and any admissions committee that I was dedicated to medicine. And luckily, with an online schedule, I was able to fit in the attending, or Dr. Bingham. His schedule was very well fitted with mine, that
Oh, okay.
any type of open places I had, I was able to slip in and out,
Right.
5 hours max.
Right. Okay. Okay. So looks like we have some more volunteering and stuff, and some more shadowing at the Hawthorne Surgical Center for 10 hours. That looks like that was last year.
That was the surgeon the Illinois Bone and Joint. That was that.
The cool day.
Yeah, the cool day.
Yeah, right. Good. A lot of work on the club, the kinesiology club. That's almost 1,200 hours of work there in the kinesiology club, and then your work at the hospital. Tell me a little bit about that. So that's 1,200 hours over the past, I guess, year or so. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of it was in the summer. I was working 60-hour weeks, mostly to pay for housing, because unfortunately on campus dorms and stuff like that are not as cheap as the housing around. So I wanted to make sure that I had enough money going into the semester to be comfortable, to not have to worry, to not have to work too much, so I can focus on my studying. So that there explains why there's so many hours, and I just continue to work on the weekends. Okay. What I do there is I'm primarily in the med-surg pediatrics unit at the hospital near my hometown. Mm-hmm. It's a great experience. I'm a nurse's aide. It's called the patient care tech. Uh-huh. Same difference. I had some CNA, a small amount of CNA experience before. To make it a little more relatable to those who have, it's pretty much the same thing, except these patients might be younger. Like I said, I take care of kids. But it's honestly just anything that they need or the nurse might need, along with being trained to help with codes, being at bedside for certain things, like medical procedures and stuff like that, to help with just patient all around patient care. You're an extra set of hands.
Okay, so a lot of good clinical contacts, though.
Yeah, and I actually got hired at the beginning of COVID. So I got some really interesting experience. I kind of gotten thrown into the fire because this was my first hospital job, trial by fire, and came out just loving it. It was a hard time, but I really felt like I made an impact at the end of the day in people's lives. Because a lot of the time I didn't always work on the pediatric unit. I got into the ICU, and now they trust me enough. I'm going into the ER and stuff like that and working as a tech there.
Yeah, cool. That's very cool. The next entry down is looks like non-medical clinical paid employment, Reed Union reservations. Is that there at your school also, or?
Yeah, that's my desk job. Nothing crazy. It's was that like student employment thing, where you get a certain amount of hours, and it's a good job. The people there are great. It's low profile, so I can do homework and study while I'm there when we're not busy and stuff like that. So that's mainly why I have that job, is to put a little extra cash in my pocket and get have homework time set aside pretty much.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, page 2 there. Yeah, we got. Oh, and that's your. Was that the? Tell me about that. That's more employment there.
Yeah, that's my not so fun job that I had my freshman year coming out of high school.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the warehouse job that you were talking about.
Yep.
Okay. 1,600 hours there. Okay. Good. Let's go down to back over on the left side, back down to medical schools, and look if you have anything in there. So these are schools that you're kind of thinking about, perhaps. Looks like you're applying, or your plan is to apply both MD and DO. Is that correct?
Yeah, but recently I've actually had more of a leaning towards DO just because the physician I've been shadowing is DO, and he's just really been a good guy to me, and we've created a great relationship, and it's just a little bit of bias, I guess, just
Sure.
because I've had such a good experience with it.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Yeah, okay. So looks like a good mixture of different schools around the country: Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Illinois. Mixture of MDs and DO schools, and over into New York, and then into the Washington area, and then of course Wisconsin. Can't discount that, right?
No, actually, for UW students, no matter if they're in state or out of state, they have seats for like people in the satellite colleges like mine, UW Oshkosh and Platteville and other places. So
Okay.
there's some seats, so that might increase my chance of getting in,
Yeah.
even though my stats aren't competitive.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Great. Well, let's go back up to the dashboard, and let me just kind of give you my sense of kind of where things stand. One of the things that really strikes me about you, Ethan, is that you are a hard worker. You're obviously somebody who is committed to taking care of yourself. I mean, you're working, close to full time, and you're working hard in the hospital. Previously, you were working hard and at your other job. So you're a hard worker, and you're trying to balance out the schoolwork, the MCAT prep, and the employment all at the same time, which is difficult. And that's very, so I commend you for that. So what I would say is, you already know that your GPA is a little on the low side. I'd like to see some additional coursework, perhaps in the upper level biological sciences, to really show the medical schools that you can definitely do the work. You've got this sort of up and down thing that you've explained to us, but what the medical schools are going to say, a lot of what they're going to look at is, they're going to look at that and say, well, we don't know who this guy is. Is he the guy at the top of the trend, or is he the guy at the bottom of the trend? Where do we hang our hat on this guy? And I hear what you're saying about the online, the difficulties in online education. The thing that strikes me about that, however, is that most medical schools right now are at least hybrid online or completely online. And so if you're struggling with sort of the online education part of it, I definitely think getting a handle on that and sort of getting a sense of how do I accomplish strong grades within the context of virtual education, because there's going to be some of that. Even in the best of days, pre-COVID, a lot of medical schools have a huge portion of their curriculum is computer-based or virtual. Students rarely are required to attend class anymore. they can if they want to. And of course, that depends a little bit on the medical school and kind of what their setup is. Certainly, COVID has changed a lot of that. So, so I would say I'll come back to that here in a second. I do agree that the MCAT is going to be important for you. I think that you've got this nice upward trend. I would strongly encourage you to. I agree with you that I think delaying the MCAT is a good idea for you. I would say maybe because you said May 22 is what you're currently signed up for, right?
May 28th.
May 28th. So I would encourage you to maybe look at changing that to the end of June or maybe into July, just to give yourself some time after school's over, after your semester has ended. Now, are you planning on taking classes this summer or no?
If at all, it's just going to be one, which is not really a struggle for me. Like I said, I took last summer. I took a class, and I was MCAT prepping then too. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I would say is maybe delay the MCAT by a month or 6 weeks or so, depending on when you can get a test date, and just give yourself more time to prepare and really take as many practice tests as possible, full-length practice tests, matching the conditions that you're going to have as much as you can. So, for example, don't always take the practice test in your room, in the quiet and no distractions, because that's not what you're going to face in the testing center at all. I would recommend going to the local library or your school library, taking the test in a condition where you can't necessarily control what's going on around you, because that's very much a lot more similar to what you're going to face in the testing center on test date, where there's going to be stuff happening that you'll have to kind of deal with. But I think that would be a good idea, particularly if you can see that upward trend of the MCAT score continuing. The great thing is you've got a lot of good contact hours, clinical shadowing. You've got some good leadership experiences with the kinesiology club, and that's very positive. So I like the activities that you've put together that really shows that you're committed to this and that you're good at it. Hopefully you'll be getting a letter from the DO that you talked about, maybe a letter from your supervisor at the hospital. Those are going to be good letters, in addition to maybe a couple of professors that you've had in class. So that would be really good. All in all, what I would say is I would give you, if we're talking about this in terms of red light, meaning red light, no, I don't think you're ready. Yellow light, meaning, depending on sort of some stuff that we don't know yet. And then green light, meaning, yeah, you're good to go. I would give you a yellow light. I would say, that we don't know about the MCAT score yet. I'd like to see some more upper division science classes that you can really show a good strength. The fact that you're working, close to full-time, if not full-time, will temper that a little bit for the medical schools, because you're going to be talking about that in your application in terms of, what you've done and kind of the struggles that you've had in terms of, balancing out everything. So I would say I'd give you a yellow light and say I wouldn't necessarily. I think you would wait. I would say go ahead and fill out the application and everything and have it ready. So when you get your MCAT score, you're ready to go. You can submit and you're ready to rock and roll. You're going to have some nice letters, I think, particularly from the DO, which is very encouraging. And I think I'm very encouraged that you're open to osteopathic medicine, because I do think that it matches well with the sort of holistic approach to well-being that fits into the athletic kind of world. This sort of greater picture of health and well-being this is kind of the DO mentality of stuff, and I think it really matches well with kind of how you describe stuff, and it also allows you the ability to do residency programs in pretty much if you decide you want to do orthopedics, you want to do sports medicine, then you have the power to do that. If you decide you just want to do primary care, you can do that. It's open to everything that an MD would be open to as well. So I would definitely say things are looking good. I'd like to see that GPA a little higher, but I think what you're going to do in your senior year, because you're graduating next year, right?
Yep, I graduate May of 2022.
Yeah, right. So you're going to have, if you had to reapply, let's say in the worst case scenario, you apply this year, you don't get in, then you're going to have next year for an application cycle a whole nother year of coursework. So I think the goal that you want to have in anticipation for that, not saying that's going to happen, but anticipation for that, planning always for the worst case scenario, I would say that you want to do really well in this last year of college, show a good upward trend, and that would be very positive if you had to reapply next year. But we'll keep our fingers crossed that this year's your year.
Yeah, that was kind of my whole plan. I just wanted, I signed up just because, like you said, I'm in a yellow light. That's kind of where I saw myself based on the previous ones. I feel so middle in the fence that this is kind of reassuring that I'm doing everything right. That for me personally, I'm giving myself the best shot, because at the end of the day, I have plan A, B, C, D, all the way back there.
Sure.
They all end in medical school. So
I good.
This year, next year, or the year after, but if I got the chance this year, I want to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only guarantee in the medical school admissions process is if you do not apply, you will not get in.
Yep, so, I listen to the podcast all the time. That's the
right. Right. So, but I mean, I would say go for it, and I'm glad you have sort of plan B, plan C, and I like what you're saying about all of these plans. They all end in medical school. I love that. That shows me you have a deep commitment to this, and you want to do it, and you're going to work hard to make it happen, and that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of fell in love with the process this past year and a half. Working at the hospital really lifted my spirits after having such a bad job. And even though school hasn't been going the best for me, I feel like I understand the content enough. It's just my grades never reflect. Well,
it's and it's balancing out the work with everything else, and that's always a challenge. And I think medical schools, they do recognize that that's part of the process for a lot of students. They have to work, they have to pay for, school and rent and food and, everything. And so it sounds like that's exactly where you are. And when that's the case, then I think it's a real effort to put through. But, kudos to you for making this your priority. And I'd really love for you to keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm having a really good semester this year. I'm taking biochem, physics 2, and genetics with nutrition. That's all 4 of my classes, but nutrition's a conditioned class. But I'm enjoying it. I feel like I'm finally unlocked that key to doing school right. And
good.
It's going very well.
Yeah, excellent. I'm very encouraged to hear that, Ethan. Well, great. Well, thanks for joining us on Am I Ready today, and good luck to you. And like I said, just keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the advice. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.